I go, African people. This is Chief Ajise here interviewing Axosu Agelogbagan, Agbovi Jisovi the first, and how are things, Kabiesi?
We're good.
Ashe.
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 Being here with you.
Ashe. As always, great honor, great pleasure.
Same here.
One of the things that we are commemorating on our calendar today is Kilombo/Maroon Day. It's something that we celebrate really every day, but we have obviously set aside a day particularly for that purpose. So let's jump right into it. Let me start by asking, why is it important for African people, but particularly African people in the so-called diaspora, to be acquainted with the idea of what a Kilombo or Maroon is, and what does that even mean for African people in the diaspora, that concept?
Well, of course, it starts with knowing the definition of a Kilombo. Kilombo for us is, long story short, an area of sovereignty. And that's sovereignty of space and mental, spiritual, mental, physical space.
Ashe. So now that we've established the definition, why is it important for African people, in particular African people in the diaspora, to study examples of that in history, examples of areas where people were able to develop communities based on that philosophy? Why is it important for African people in the diaspora to familiarize themselves with those concepts?
Well, it's part of the solution and the problem. Problem and solution, rather. The problem is we don't recognize that. Solution is separation, but not separation in the normal sense of what people hear from various organizations. Separation is often mental and spiritual, economic even. When you separate yourself and then you decide to collectively organize, that's the Kilombo. You can separate yourself ideology-wise, but you're not, organizing. It's not functional.
Right.
That's not the Kilombo.
Right.
The Kilombo is a collective.
Right.
A sovereign community, or at least a community that is headed towards sovereignty, or trying to go towards it.
So is it possible to maintain the Kilombo or Maroon mind state, but yet still harbor non-African religious concepts or non-African concepts regarding the social constructs, the cultural constructs? Is it possible to do that and still maintain the Kilombo/Maroon mentality?
Yeah, a lot of people think it's possible to do a lot of things, and then we see where that goes. Men think it's possible to be women,
right?
Dissections,
right?
And vice versa. Women think it's possible. The key word, possible.
Right.
So, anything outside of African ideology cannot fit the Kilombo. Period. We've seen the history of it. If a person really studies like the Palanques of South America and the Quilombos of Brazil, not just Palmares, the Maroon societies of Jamaica, they'll see that a lot of their failure was due to anti-African philosophy. Just a fact.
Right. So, with that in mind, when we look at historical examples of Kilombo/Maroon communities, when we talk about ones that were able to sustain, they were ones that had, as Kabesi said, a separatist mentality. They had no desire to intermingle non-African concepts with African concepts. They understood that in order for it to survive, it had to be 100% African.
Right.
So how dangerous is it today, then, if that's the only way to sustain as African people? How dangerous is it today to see a lot of the things we see now, where it's just commonplace for African people to think that it's okay to embrace non-African concepts?
We see it with things like the highest rate of domestic violence is not only among African people. That's not the. But the highest rate of of domestic violence is amongst people in dissexual relationships.
True.
All right, that's number one, and then come down, break it down per African people, white people, whatever. Black people have the highest, and you break it down further. The women have the highest, like women on women, dissexual, homosexual. For y'all that don't know what I mean by that. Very, very high. Talk to police, and I don't like the police, but I have talked to police in the past, and they'll tell you they're when they have to, visit domestic violence cases between like 2008 and 7 or something like that, and now the number one visits is same-sex relationships. Same sex. And then under that is black women, so-called lesbians, and then other black male things. This is a fact. And a lot of people don't speak on it. And then a lot of people are not going to speak on it now because they got to be correct.
Right.
I don't have to be correct.
I should.
Politically correct.
Right. So, can Kabesi talk about the importance of women with regard to the success of the Kilombo? How important are women in general to the success of the Kilombo? Because a lot of people don't really think about when they think about this, we live in a patriarchal society. They think about men and just their role in the success or failure of all kinds of different things socially. But as Africans, of course, we look at things totally differently. We recognize the balance of the masculine and feminine principles. So, how important is the success of the Kilombo in relation to women? How important is that success? And not only that, but how important has it been historically when we look at historical examples of the Kilombo and the role that women played either in a success or a failure? So it's like a two-part question.
Well, this is a good question because, not to flip it, but a lot of times this success or failure that you ask of, as you say, is based on women, or you're implying rather. But the women should be, the question should be posed to the women. because the question is often posed to the men. You know, and some of us men get it, you know, but then ask the women. And then some of them, they'll say they got it, you know, but do they?
Right.
Now, for anybody to say I'm chauvinistic, you know, and all that, whatever, you know, try to correct the woman. Or the average woman, the black American woman. And watch what you get. This is a fact. It might not turn out good for you. You know. So the point is that they have to know who they are. See, it's one thing to have an ideology. You know, hey, we should be this way with the men, women, whatever, you know. But when they don't know who they are, that goes out the window. Period.
So
we can't uplift something that is bringing themselves down. It's a battle. It's stalemate at best.
So then, based on that, and this may be also another question for the sisters, but just to put the idea out there and to get the listeners to thinking about it, with that being the case, that would mean then that right now the sisters may not necessarily, as a collective, be prepared to do what needs to be done to forward the movement of the Quilombo in general. If that kind of experience with sisters is commonplace, that would seem like we're working against each other as opposed to working together. So, what is Kabiesi's opinion on what would need to happen to bridge that gap, to flip that to where things are more harmonious between sisters and brothers as far as moving things forward with Quilombos?
That's a good question, because I'm a big opinion of individual choice. Right? So we're not in the business at Ganlodo of, hey, I'm gonna save you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know, hey, sister, brother, I know you messed up, and I'm gonna, you know. And this ain't the '60s,
Right.
'50s, '60s, '70s, where Malcolm X, you know, talked about bringing people out of the mud, because that was a different energy at that time. That energy doesn't exist. So the point is, we only exist for those that are ready.
I sure.
We can't wrangle. We've wrangled enough. We even wrangled recently.
I sure.
You know, we've wrangled. For those that don't know what we talk about, battle, you know, struggle with, you know, wrestle with. We've done that enough. And so we're not trying to save no brother, save no sister. You know. And a lot of times with the sisters, you know, I'm probably gonna get in trouble for this video. But a lot of times with the sisters, if you're not speaking the language that they want you to speak, then you're against them. You're against them. They can ask you a question, a simple question. Where's the sit go? You know, and you say the sit go is 2 blocks up and to the right. Well, I thought the sit go was to the left. or whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Sicko I know is to the 2 blocks up to the right. Thank you, sister. You know, holla at you, you know. Be well. I met this dude. He got mad at me because I was a woman.
Mm-hmm.
He disagreed with me because I was a woman, right? You know. No, you asked me where the Sitco was.
Mm-hmm.
And I told you where it was.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Why did you ask me for the truth? And then when I gave it to you in the simplest, calmest way I could, you had a problem. Don't do that. Work on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know. And any guys that got that problem too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if they got problems with women, work on yourself. That's not cool. Just because a woman said it to you, you know, but it's, to be real, it's mostly.
Ashe. So, along that line of looking at the dynamic between brothers and sisters in today's world, what is the role of family as a unit with regard to the success of the Kilombo/Maroon community?
Well, I think you can speak on that. Break that down. I know I'm being interviewed, but you know, I like to delegate authority.
Ashe.
Yeah, you are a person of authority. People might not know that that's listened to the video, but I mean, I think you can speak on that.
Ashe. I could.
But okay, you want me to speak?
Yeah.
The role of family.
Absolutely.
It's everything.
Ashe.
It's the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the average is funny, right? Not really funny, but we speak from the perspective of the Kilombo paradigm,
Mm-hmm.
and we speak on nation building, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we talk to people, you know, so-called African Americans, black people from America, whatever. They're like, oh, what is that? Then we break down what the Kilombo paradigm is. When we talk about family development, they're like, oh, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Only thing is, they're not thinking intergenerational.
Oh, okay.
But they straight family development. Look at the cookouts.
Right.
Look at all the barbecues.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The meetups, whatever they have at these various places, black-owned spot. A lot of them are not consciously thinking, hey, I want to go to a black-owned spot, but they have, you know, event at a black-owned spot,
Right.
whatever. And their family are in there.
Right.
Hey, let me introduce you to my cousin. Let me introduce you to, you know, my brother or extended family
Right.
type of thing. So, what we have done in African culture, we've formulated,
Mm.
you know, we've reorganized it
Mm-hmm.
from an intergenerational perspective.
Sure.
They do the same thing, but it's the only weak part of it is that it's like it don't last past Christmas,
Mm-hmm.
European Christmas. You know what I'm saying? When everybody
Right.
get together, you know, what's the other one before that?
The 4th of July or Labor
Yeah,
Day.
that one.
Thanksgiving. They love Thanksgiving.
Yeah, Thanksgiving. Yeah, so 4th of July, them days like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's a beautiful display.
Right.
Beautiful. Some of my family still do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But so you see family development on a spark level.
Right.
Now a spark can do something for a second. you know,
Right.
and then, yeah,
It doesn't endure.
it's not going to endure
Right.
because it's not designed to endure. It's a spark, and I love it. I like to see the spark, but it's not.
So what's preventing it from enduring?
They don't have African culture.
I see.
They don't have the idea of merit. And I love them. I love these people. You know, so anybody watching this, because I know I'm gonna say this real quick. I know Mobile people are watching my videos now. I ain't talking about y'all. I'm just talking about stuff in general. But it's not. Everything's about feel good.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And that can go for anybody. You know.
Right.
Yeah. It's feel good. These so-called holidays, they're designed for commercial feel good. And so, you know, we want to say this too. Like, even if you don't come to African culture, just think about that. Think about how they do the feel good with you. Let's not even talk about the Popeyes chicken sandwich.
Right. So, there are a number of people out there today that have decided to pursue and return to African culture as new African people, meaning Africans from the so-called diaspora.
What do you mean by diaspora?
The descendants of those people, those African people who were captured against their will and were taken to other parts of the world and were forced to work on different plantations and so forth. So we call them captives or prisoners of war, different things of that nature.
They were all captives.
Right.
Originally.
So while it's good to see people at least make an attempt to return to African culture as African people, in a lot of those circles, we still don't see the forward movement and progress and the nature that endures in the way Kabi is speaking. So in other words, they still doing a lot of the feel good gatherings, rituals, and so forth, and you don't really see the application outside of those moments. So what is it that's missing even in those cases?
We had an article. And we don't know if, you familiar with it. I don't know if you read it though, but Buck Dancing in the Name of the Orisha. Did you ever read it?
Nah, I wasn't able to find it.
We got it.
Okay.
We got it. We found it. So we have a log of some old articles.
I sure.
And so in that, we talked about this type of thing, right? And gosh, people, they totally missed the point, right? They were like, "Oh, wait a minute, how you gonna be an African tradition and you don't want to dance?" That's not what we said. We said buck dancing. You know, you're dancing and singing, because what we said in the article, you're dancing and singing, but you're not dancing and singing for to alter the course of the enemy. Yeah, that's what the article. If you don't have the article, I'll send it to you.
Sure.
So we had an image we had an image of somebody actually buck dancing on the article on the website. And people had a big problem with it. Big problem. And they beamed in on stuff like, "Oh, you don't. We're not supposed to dance for the Orisha. If music is on, you gonna dance. That's not what we're talking about.
Right.
Not getting it, you know." And their attack is pretty bad for that. When we was talking about dancing and not having, let's have fun, you know. But what about these other rituals that we should have that has a purpose, right? To affect change in our families, in the community, and of course against this cracker.
Right.
And the cracker being also not just the European cracker, but the Asian cracker. You know, any non-African. John Henry Clark said the only friend that the African has is the African. Right?
Can't get any more plain than that.
That's it. Convince yourself of this black and brown stuff. Okay. At the end of the day, while you run around here talking about black and brown and whatever, you know, they talking about whatever they are. And then if they can use you on the bottom, they're gonna do that.
So what is the function and role of the ancestors to a Kilombo or Maroon community?
I mean, they are the wow, so many things I can say. We always say the first and last line of defense. You know, and the deities are in between. Because connected to every ancestor is a deity or 2 or 3 or 10 or whatever. But the ancestors Kulita and Gungo, they have the first part of the mandate.
Right.
Yeah. They are the ones that direct where you go with a deity. Yeah. Period. But, you know, and we know you didn't ask this question, but a lot of people, they deal with deities separate from ancestors, and there's a legitimacy there, but they don't connect the deities and the ancestors.
Right.
You see?
Right.
And that's a big problem for us. That's a big problem. Because there are certain ancestors that's connected to certain deities, and you know, you can't do nothing without the ancestors. Not for real.
Right.
Because, you know, the Christians, right? They talk about this Jesus guy. And he never existed, don't get me wrong. But they talk about him and never talk about their ancestors. Except for when it come time when Uncle Junior died.
Right.
You ever notice that?
Yeah.
Man, Uncle Junior died, man, about this time last year. Right? Jesus never gets brought up. Think about it. That's been my experience.
Yeah.
Auntie such and such. Oh man, she was this and that. And then they go to the grave. In the South, where I'm from, where I'm from in the South, I would notice they would never bring up Jesus. They would always talk about family members at their grave. They know better. They just ain't, been taught better.
Putting 2 and 2 together, right?
Right. Ain't been. I say. Same thing.
Yeah.
So Guapo, we call it Guapo.
I said. So, and then also too, with the people, because we got we have what we call New African people, meaning the descendants of those captured Africans. We refer to them at Ganlodo as New Africans.
Gotcha. Well, that's not a term that we originated.
No, that's not. We did not come up with that term. We've adopted it. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. If the term works and it makes sense.
That's shit.
Yeah. It's no deal.
That's what I've been saying for a long
shit.
time. Like, look, if it worked, encode script,
Right.
the writing script that we have,
Right.
I didn't create that. We
Right.
didn't create that. It works.
Right. There it is. Exactly. I should. So with New Africans, we have a lot of our people who are dealing with Christianity, they're dealing with Islam and stuff, and then we have some of us who are trying to return to African tradition and culture. In both instances, I have seen that it is common for people to, if they do think of the ancestors, particularly the ones that's trying to return to African culture, when they do think of the ancestors, they think of them in a more distant way, like going back a lot of times to Africa, but they don't think about the relationships spiritually that some of their more recent ancestors have as far as the impact on their life, like the Uncle Joes Kabesi was just talking about, and the aunties and the grandparents. And Kabesi talk about how important it is to not overlook the recent ancestors that we have, the ones of good character, they were good people, even if they didn't know about the culture and whatnot.
Oh, that's a multi-layered question. But yeah, because the last part, that added a layer.
Right.
I said them, but okay, repeat the question again, please.
Yeah. How important is it to not overlook recent ancestors? Yeah.
So this question is in relation to people that like to focus on the way back. Is that okay?
Or the ones that don't know about African culture, but they have this gut feeling that, hey, my grandmother, I love my grandmother, and I had this strong relationship with her, but they don't really know how to work with that feeling.
That's two different questions.
It is. I mean, but the ones that like had, in my opinion, the ones that had a relationship with their grandmother or whatnot, but don't know about the science of working with their ancestors, they don't realize they're doing it, but in a sense, they end up usually overlooking a lot of the ways that they could really capitalize on a relationship that they had with their grandmother, because they don't really know how to engage them. So they overlooking it not consciously, but just by nature of being robbed of the culture and the mechanisms to engage them. They end up effectively doing that. They may end up going to Jesus when they should be going to their grandparent for guidance, stuff like that. And then we got the people that's claiming that they about African culture, but they want to always talk about their ancient African ancestors, but don't want to pay attention to the grandmas and the aunties and so forth, all of that. So they end up overlooking it in a different way, but it still ends up being overlooking, if that makes any sense.
Oh, okay. Well, both of these people have a dilemma. But the strange thing about this, in our opinion, the one that is in African culture, right, who is talking about the ancient ancestor, they are in a little worse predicament than the person, the other person, not really recognizing the other stuff. The Black American, whatever, they will go to a grave site and honor, once again, the thing is, we have to know how to teach that kind of person. You kind of said it, like they don't have the guidance or whatever, and we're not on this video talking about who don't know nothing. And I'm from Mobile, Alabama. Say that real quick. From Mobile, Alabama. Raised in the 70s, Alabama, Mobile, Alabama. Never saw, I don't know when the first time I ever saw white police in my neighborhood. Saying that to say that I'm not, people ask me, oh, wait, what part of Africa are you from? Like, I'm from Mobile, Africa. How about that? So I understand the backdrop to where we come. A lot of people, they don't get that. And a lot of times, the people that have that background, you could talk to more than the so-called people that, hey, I'm African. I'm in the African tradition.
True.
If you know how to talk to them.
Right.
We literally had an example of it earlier today. We haven't talked about that, but our brother, we talked to. That brother is ready for something else. But that's But yeah.
I sure.
See, a lot of these people. Oh yeah, that's another subject.
I sure. So, once again, we are commemorating Kilombo/Maroon Day. We recognize the importance and the necessity of the ideology of the Kilombo/Maroon community and its importance in African survival,
Right.
and endurance and the eventual prosperity of African people and culture, and the security of it. So, just to wrap things up, to close things out, are there any final words that Kabis would like to impart on the people regarding the importance of the Kilombo/Maroon ideology, philosophy, its relevance to African people, or anything along those lines?
We have to keep in mind that a Kilombo is a secure spot.
Sure.
Take that in mind and like run with that one. You know what I'm saying? Kilombo, secure spot. What is security for you? Now that's different people have different ways of looking at security. But for us, it's a spot of ideology and spot of gaining not only security but sovereignty. Sovereignty for us is economic also.
I see.
Our children are free. We are free as much as we can be anyway.
Right.
We getting land or trying to get land. That's Kilombo. Kilombo is not talk. It's functional.
I see.
That's what Maroon ideology. Now, I want to clear up something too about we talk about Maroons, because people are gonna look stuff up.
Right.
And they're gonna look up Maroon. They're gonna see these Maroons in Jamaica who was selling Africans into captivity.
Right.
That's not Maroon ideology.
That's right.
You know, they attached the term or idea of Maroon to them because they had their own little communities, you know, true enough. But they were not Maroons.
Right.
I can tell you I'm a Baptist, but really I'm a Catholic, you know, that type of thing. And that's what happened with these so-called Maroons in Jamaica. Not all of them, but some of them. So we want to make sure that people know, because we've been wondering, like, do people think, you know, no. We are real Maroons, like Maroon from the ideology perspective. That's why we use certain language.
That's right.
You know, and you know, it's unfortunate we have to do that sometimes. But, like, you have to know that we see a cracker as a cracker. You know,
Right.
stuff like that.
To return to the Maroons in Jamaica real quick, the only reason that they even were able to sustain their communities is because they had brokered deals with the British to sell any Africans that ran to them for shelter back to the British. So had it not been for that deal, it's highly unlikely they would have been able to survive. It wasn't because of their warrior mentality. It wasn't because of their commitment to African culture and their desire to live free. It was because of a brokered taboo deal that allowed them to endure. So that's one thing to realize. Also wanted to throw that in there too, because when we study the Quilombos and the Maroon communities throughout history, we see that they had a fierce warrior mentality, and they would lay down their lives, both the men and the women, for the security of the community, and that a lot of times put such fear in the hearts of the crackers that they would leave them alone.
Yeah.
Totally different situation than what happened in Jamaica with those sellouts, and it's important for people to understand that.
Yeah, I should. I took one for that information. For adding that.
I
Yeah.
should.
It's one of the things we were thinking of when we was commenting.
I should.
And it's unfortunate because it's like you can't win for losing, so to speak. Because people hear Maroon, yeah, and then, oh, the Maroons were sellouts. No.
Right.
Those Maroons, those ones that call themselves Maroons.
Call themselves Maroons.
Call themselves Maroons.
Right.
You can call yourself anything.
Exactly.
And then, you feel what I'm saying?
Most definitely.
You could say you from Roxbury.
Right.
But you really from somewhere else. You could say you from Mobile, Alabama. You really from, I don't know, what's the outside? Washington County. You know,
Right.
You know, and people don't know no better. Like, oh, all them, you know. So for us, Quilombo, or Maroon philosophy is that, like, based on original philosophy, is not based on what somebody called themselves later.
Right.
Motherfucker, somebody could call themselves something later. Yeah, I did what you did. But hey, we gonna go with it. But somebody could call themselves something later, and then try to mess up your spot.
Right.
Blow up your spot. You know what I'm saying?
Right. That's what's happened. Yeah.
You know,
they've sullied the name Maroon.
right? Like, oh, these are Maroon. No, these are not Maroon.
Right.
And they make you cuss.
Just like the people that sold our ancestors to the Yovo and gave them over, handed them over, they're not Africans. They're traitors to African people.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about that. We people I have talked about that.
I sure. Most definitely.
And people not really hearing me. The descendants of the so-called Clotilda, all of them. Like, first of all, why are you calling yourself a descendant of a slave ship, so-called slave ship?
Right.
You called it a slave ship. You called it that.
Right.
All right? So, I'm a descendant of the Clotilda. No. What they were doing before that
Right.
don't make sense to me.
It no.
All right? And then some of y'all, a couple of y'all, descend from somebody that was selling other African people into captivity. Compa. I'm gonna keep talking about this, and people, they gonna keep getting mad,
Right.
but they can't deny what I'm saying.
I sure.
Goomba, who end up being Peter Lee in Mobile, Plateau, Magazine Point area, Pritchard, yeah, that's what he did. I got examples of, I'm trying to remember this one guy's name. He was in captivity in Brazil, and he changed his name to Alcamida or something like that, and went back to West Africa. He was from, he was Agile. Went back to West Africa. I think he went to Badagry and became a slave trader. He had been in captivity,
Crazy.
and they baptized this Negro and gave him that Al-Qaeda name, whatever. He went back. Yeah. And he became that story is told in Benin to this day. To this day. What's her name? De Sousa? What's her name?
Martine de Sousa?
Yeah. She'll tell you that story. She's still over there. Because she's taking, doing the tours and whatnot. Yeah.
Wow.
She got a lot of stories. That's one thing I give her. She got a lot of stories. And when people be talking about, this stuff is wrong, and the kingdom of Judah and all that, Martina de Souza, she be like, Martine. She be like, no. Tell you the whole history. I'm telling you the real story. Got to the point where I ain't really want to talk to her.
I sure.
But she had stories.
Right.
They were real.
Accurate stories.
Yeah. It wasn't the stuff you see in the books on the internet, Wikipedia and all that.
Right.
She gave the real deal. And, she had blood ties to the D'Souza guy.
Right. Biggest heathens over there in that area at that time.
He was, And so according to who she talking to, she loved D'Souza or did not.
She played both sides of the fence. Yeah. They go for that over there. So
That's why we ain't been big on going back.
Right.
For what? I mean, if I can avoid y'all, yeah, I'll come back.
Right.
But I can't avoid being in my position.
Right.
I would not be able to avoid.
Right.
But, because it's going to be a problem.
Right. I say. Okay, so we have been communing with Axosu Agelogbagan, Agbovi, Axosu the First, here on Kilombo/Maroon Day, and we just wanted to give the people a taste of what we're about and the importance for us, and what should be the importance for African people in general, new African people in particular, regarding the importance of the Kilombo/Maroon, not only ideology but practical application.
What are your ideas, Chief, before we sign off?
About the importance of the Kilombo?
Your ideas, period.
I think that at this point, the Kilombo / Maroon community is the last hope for African culture and sovereignty. And I think at this point, the Kilombo is the only way to maintain the integrity and the strict adherence to character and morality that is necessary for us to be able to properly hold each other accountable, hold outsiders accountable, and make sure that we are strong. I think the Kilombo / Maroon community is one of the last places that really has legitimate deities, because in most other cases the deities have fled from these areas where there has been constant selling out of the culture. There's been disrespect of the deities being done, and just no real credibility when it comes to spirit anymore. They put on a good show in front, but the idea of having African culture be for African people only, unfortunately now it seems like that's not all that common to hear. And the Kilombo,
That's strange.
it is very strange.
That's real.
The Kilombo is the last installation and secure spot where the safety and dignity of our shrines, of our ancestors, is maintained. So, for those who are interested in African culture, if you are sincerely interested as an African in African culture, as a new African in particular, you really need to look at African culture and then look at Kilombo African culture, because there's a distinct difference. Kilombo African culture is true African culture. It's true African spirit science. It's true African community. Everything else is just a shell.
So I've turned into the interviewer right now. I don't want to prolong it too far. When you say true African culture, and I think I know what you're talking about, but well, I'm sure I know what you're talking about. But break that down. African culture and right, so we're African culture, true African culture, and then something else, what somebody is doing. Like, what does that look like? Like, yeah.
Okay. For example, I can give a bunch of examples. Like for one example, when you have, let's just take the Alafin Navoyo. If I'm not mistaken, the current Alafin Navoyo, he's a Muslim, isn't he?
Yeah, his father was a Muslim even.
His father was a Muslim.
Yeah. I think it's three generations of Muslim.
Oh. Now,
Yes.
the Alafin of Oyo obviously predates any kind of Muslim influence or anything like that. But this is a Yoruba man who would have had to undergo all of the rigorous rituals and ceremonies to be installed as the Alafin of Oyo, which would inherently involve dealing with numerous Orisha.
He went through the same ceremonies that we went through.
I say.
I went through.
He would have to deal with all of these different Yoruba deities and ancestors as well.
Mm-hmm. He had to definitely deal with a strong Shango ceremony.
That is complete disrespect to Shango to be a Muslim, which that doctrine, not only is it not African, but it speaks against the whole idea of African culture. It calls it pagan.
Yeah.
It calls it heathen. So you can't serve two masters. What are you? Are you a Muslim or are you Yoruba? Because if you're Yoruba, Yoruba has its own culture, its own spirit science, Isheshe, that is specific.
Say that again.
Isheshe, that is it's specific to the Yoruba people. So that's direct disrespect to Shango. That's direct disrespect to Oya. That's direct disrespect to all of the Orisha. It's total disrespect. Not only that, but they over there initiating non-Africans to so-called initiating non-Africans, particularly a lot of Caucasians, to Orisha and to claiming to initiate them to Ifa.
Yeah.
That's another major taboo and violation.
Yes.
You can't initiate non-Africans to African deities. You can't initiate non-Africans.
It's actually not possible.
It's not possible because they don't possess the spirit.
Right.
Because they're not African.
Right.
They don't have the blood
No, they don't.
to receive these deities.
Right.
So that's not African culture. I don't know what that is. It's a profanity and a bastardization of the culture, and it's something that makes us at Ganlodo extremely angry. That's not African culture. So that's not true African culture.
No.
So that would be the way I would distinguish the Kilombo mentality, the Kilombo functional approach, just on a very simple level. Never going to see Muslim people that claim to be anything in the culture. If you're Muslim, then you stay over there. But don't try to talk to me about the Orisha. Don't try to talk to me about the Hum.
They'll do that.
You got nothing to tell me.
What's interesting though, with oil, is there were 3 oil, right? But everybody talking about 2 oil. And the second oil was a Maroon community. They had to go from oil Ile to and create the new oil, the oil that we see, we know now. They know about Maroonish in these African communities. That's Maroonish.
Right.
Where you let's pick up and go here and create, Islam got a grasp in their backs, in their heads. 19th century, early 19th century actually, and it recalls memory, ancestral memory for me, because my ancestor got caught up in that. I think it was a Fonja who was was it him? Yep. On a confo, he was like the war general, and he was, he invited the Muslims in and whatnot. And my ancestor was like, time to go. Because our people were given a safe haven in oil, but when he came through there, and no, it's time to go. He was a Muslim.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a prime example of what makes us Maroons is the way we look at history, the way we look at the current state of African people on the continent and worldwide, is that we will confront the instances where the culture is not being properly represented with dignity and integrity, and it's not being properly respected.
That's it.
And this is what we do at Ganlodo. We not only call that out, but we provide solutions, alternative solutions to correcting these wrongs. And that's what we're doing. So for those that are interested, they can visit us at our websites. Kilombo Restoration and Healing is restorationhealing.com and GanlodoKingdom.com. And they can also email us. I'm sorry?
Spell
Ganlodo. Ganlodo, GANLODO, Kingdom.com. And people can also email us at Ekabo, EKAABO, Kilombo, KILOMBO, at gmail.com. Ekabo Kilombo at gmail.com. Feel free to reach out to us at any time. We always are available to communicate with those new African people that are interested in returning to their culture and reclaiming their culture.
Gotcha.
And being proud to be African. And we invite all new Africans for that purpose. So, once again, we are celebrating and commemorating Kilombo/Maroon Day here at Ganlodo, and we have been communing with the Axosu Agelogbagan, Agbovi, Axosu the First. And be well, all African people. Ashe.
We want to say this before we leave. Serious inquiries only.
Serious inquiries only. Remember that. Ashe.
Sure.
Odabo.
Odigo.